Yes, good morning. It is my pleasure now to welcome everyone to the Finance and Physical Resources Committee meeting. It is Tuesday, September 17th. It is 8:30. We just had our first work session for our budget just prior to this at 7:30. And with that, I'm going to open up to public comment. Is there any public that would like to address the Finance and Physical Resources Committee this morning? Okay, seeing none, I will close public comment. That will move to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Are there any items that have to be pulled? Yes, Commissioner Bolkowski.
I'd like to pull the
We're going to pull item D. Any other items? All right, so if I remember correctly, we can just,
Approval for the others first, and then we'll go back to that one.
yes, so we will now move to approve the consent agenda. I'm sorry, we need a second. A second?
Yeah.
There's your support. Okay, so we will approve the consent agenda A, B, C, and E. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, consent agenda A, B, C, and E pass. And now we'll go to D, which is the Juvenile Detention Center. Is there, did we take a motion to approve? Is there a motion to approve it?
So moved.
Okay,
Support.
all right, and now we can have discussion and questions. You want to read it first?
Do you want me to, or no?
Well,
It's up to you.
it
It's
was,
very
Usually
small.
do.
okay, why don't you go ahead and read it?
That's okay.
No, please, Wayman, we have time. Go ahead.
Everybody knows what we're talking about.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and share?
Okay, so this is a request to the Board of Commissioners to approve the Juvenile Detention Center's 2019-20 agreement with Michigan Department of Education to accept and appropriate $125,000 from the Michigan Department of Education to the Special Projects Fund, and to authorize the board chair designate to execute the grant agreement, approve extensions, amendments, and increases to grant appropriations not to exceed 15% of the original award. The United States Department of Agriculture, via the Michigan Department of Education, provides funding to counties to provide nutritious breakfasts and lunches to eligible children residing in the detention center. The grant period is October 1, 2019 through September 30th, 2020. Prior to signature, Corporate Counsel will review and approve all documents.
And we already had our move and support, and now we will have questions, comments, and discussion. Let's start with Commissioner Bolkowski, please.
Thank you. Yeah, no problem with the motion. The curiosity, when the U.S. Department of Agriculture is in the same sentence as the word nutritious, my question is who determines that these meals are nutritious? Primarily because in the early 80s, I remember at a time the USDA was trying to say ketchup was a vegetable. I don't know if people in the group are old enough to remember that, but who determines nutrition on this? And of course, that is a huge concern in our community as we do all kinds of food security issues. You know, are we providing nutrition? Are we providing empty calories? Just who arbitrates this?
Well, I know that we have to follow licensing standards set forth by the state of Michigan, and we, cook all our own food. But yeah, as far as the actual nutritional value, I'm going to have to plead a little bit of ignorance on that. And I mean, I can get back to, I'm not sure what standards you're looking for, if they just monitor the USDA, or again, if licensing digs deeper into that to make sure that we're doing it. The facility is reviewed by licensing once every year. One of those is a very, very, deep dive into the facility and everything that's going on, where they'll look at, how many calories each kid gets per meal, that type of thing. So that's where the standards come from.
Real quick.
Go ahead.
Just then, I know the health department does a lot of education on food preparation, nutrition, all those things, double up food bucks. Again, all this emphasis on fresh, especially local. Is there good alignment there, or is it just?
I'm really
All right.
not sure. I'd have to
Okay.
ask my superintendent to be
All
sure.
right, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Wooden?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just going to actually ask the same question Commissioner Bolkowski did, but I would just echo with the proximal distance to both MSU Extension and the Health Department, I think it can make some sense to at least have a conversation on how to implement this grant as successfully as possible, given Commissioner Bolkowski's comments about policies made before I was born. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion passes. That brings us to item number 3 from the Administrator's Office and the Health Department. Wayman.
Yes, this is a request to accept contributions and appropriate $321,600 to the 2019 Special Projects Fund budget for hiring a mental health crisis center consultant. For several years, there has been a broad community effort to create a mental health crisis center. In late 2017, Network 180 created a crisis center task force to seek broad feedback on a crisis center concept, to analyze and validate financing needs for a community crisis center, and to recommend a financial plan to develop a crisis center. In December of 2018, the task force representative presented its findings to the Kent County Population Health Consortium, which is leaders from the Health Department, Spectrum Health, Mercy Health, St. Mary's, Metro Health, University of Michigan Health, Pine Rest, Christian Mental Health, and Mary Free Bed Rehabilitation Hospital. And earlier this year, the consortium agreed to engage an independent consultant to provide a detailed crisis center recommendation. Kent County was asked to facilitate that request for proposal, and the consortium selected Tri-West Group to serve as the independent consultant. Other members of the consortium have agreed to contribute $245,800 to defray the cost of the consultant, and Kent County will contribute the balance of $75,800.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support.
Okay, moved and supported. Questions, comments, and discussion? Yes, Commissioner Wooden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question was, the individuals listed in the staff report and the contributing members, are those the only members of the consortium for the Mental Health Crisis Center discussion?
There are other members of the consortium, but these are the primary members that have supported this in a financial way.
Fantastic. And my follow-up question is, are any of the members of the consortium who are non-contributing members but are at least contributing to the discussion, are these agencies that have more direct care experience with individuals that have had mental health crises in Kent County?
Yeah, other agencies like Cherry Health, that's one I can think of.
Okay.
There are others that are out there. The police department from the city of Grand Rapids, the East Grand Rapids, they're also involved with it. Health Net, another agency that's involved that cares for it. So there's several other members that will contribute to the discussion, but not all are contributing in a financial way.
Great. I only ask because, obviously these are all great institutions to have at the table, and they have a breadth of experience, and I'm glad that they're financially contributing to it. Just they're obviously the 30,000 square foot level, and when we're talking about mental health crises, I want to make sure that the direct care providers that have a much more day-to-day experience with those individuals are at the table.
Yeah, Commissioner Stack and Adam London probably have a little bit more in-depth point of view on the actual crisis center task force which is involved. If you need additional questions answered related to that, they could probably help it as well.
For the sake of the size of the agenda we have and the fact that discussion can happen later, I will defer to that point, but I'm just glad to know that there is additional presentation or
Yes, there is.
participation.
Yes, Commissioner Volkowski.
Thank you, Chair. Two quick questions. Where is our $75,805 coming from?
It's coming out of the Health Department fund. We received some additional Medicaid reimbursement dollars that were unexpected, and so we're going to draw from those dollars.
Okay, and then it sounds like everyone's contributing to the county, and we're going to be the contract holder as opposed to us and everyone contributing to Network 180, and why wouldn't they be the contract holder? I mean, it just seems like it would be easier and more appropriate for them to be in charge of this contract.
Well, that was a discussion point, feeling that the county, through its purchasing process, we have a very robust RFP process. We utilize Cal Brinks and the Fiscal Services Department, our office, to manage the process, and it was felt that we should in fact then continue to manage the process. It was felt that it's no slight on Network 180, just simply taking advantage of the resources we have within the county.
Yes, Commissioner Antor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Do we know the names of any of the other groups that may have been in the running for the position as consultants?
Sure. It's Cal or, not here? I can get you those names. I can get you the, there were at least 5 others that were in the final phase of the process. We can get you the names.
Perfect, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion passes. That brings us to item number 4 from the Circuit Court. Wayman?
Yes, this is a request to approve the Child Care Fund Annual Plan for 2019-20 and to appropriate $29,670,000 to the 2019-20 Child Care Fund budget, to authorize the board chair or designate to execute contracts with the proposed local agencies, the grant agreement with the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, approve extensions, amendments, and increases to the grant appropriation to not exceed 15% of the original award, subject to final review of the documents by corporate counsel. Each year, the 17th District Court, Family Division, and the Kent County Department of Health and Human Services are required to prepare a plan showing how the Child Care Fund dollars will be spent by each agency. The plan encompasses in-home and out-of-home placement costs for children at risk of abuse and neglect, as well as children determined to be delinquent. The law provides that each county will receive a reimbursement from the state of Michigan of 60% of the annual net expenditures for certain costs related to placement and efforts to reduce placement, plus a 10% administrative fee. As part of the county system of care philosophy and the Duane B. Federal Court settlement, the Child Care Fund includes a performance-based contract pilot that caps out-of-home child welfare costs at $4.5 million payable to the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. These funds are not subject to the 50% reimbursement. For 2020, funding will be provided to agencies on the attached contractual services grid, which has a list of the services that will be provided for children in the juvenile justice and or child welfare systems. Prior to signature, corporate counsel will review and approve all documents.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support.
Okay, moved and supported. We'll have questions, comments, and discussion. Yes, Commissioner Antor.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. This money that we're going to be increasing to move kids around and so forth, that's great, but I was wondering, do we have any money or any more money or any better plan for actually looking into possible crisis situations so the kids that really need help are getting out in a timely fashion? I know we've had some issues over the past several years where kids have been kind of hanging in there too long. And I think there needs to be a little bit more diligence on that end of it, to get kids out of these crisis homes. I've got some personal experience with that, and I was just wondering if some of this money would be used to do a little bit better investigation.
We can have staff take a look at that for you. I can tell you that there are a number of programs that deal with that very issue. The work that the West Michigan Partnership for Children is doing, and along with Saveda Selving Johnson in her office, we do provide some supplemental supports for unique cases within the child welfare through the Social Welfare Fund, in addition to this money, and through our prevention initiative dollars that we use. So it's, I think we do, but we can get you a better answer. Matthew can work on that and get you even additional detail.
I appreciate that. And it may not be a matter of money, it's just a matter of mindset sometimes, because we're dealing with kids in their homes. You know, what is that tipping point to get those kids out of those homes? I think that's the part we need to take a long look at. So I'm not pointing any fingers, I'm just saying maybe we need to look at that a little deeper. Okay, thank you.
All right, anyone else? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion passes. That brings us to item 5, also from the Circuit Court. Wayman.
Yes, this is a request to the Board of Commissioners to accept and appropriate $164,700 from the State Court Administrator's Office to the 2019-20 Special Projects Fund for a 17th Circuit Court Mental Health Court, and to authorize the board chair or designee to execute the grant agreement, approve extensions, amendments, and increases to the grant appropriation not to exceed 15% of the original award. On March 9, 2017, the Board of Commissioners accepted and appropriated a mental health court planning grant awarded by the State Court Administrator's Office. A mental health court is a specialized court docket for certain defendants with mental illness that substitutes a problem-solving model for traditional criminal court processing. The circuit court submitted a request for $164,700 for implementation of a mental health court within the county. Grant dollars will be used to contract for the following services: program coordination, clinical support, incentives, data entry, program involvement, drug test, and legal defense. The term of the grant is October 1, 2019 to September 30, 2020. It is expected that the grant will be renewable. Prior to signature, the corporate counsel will review and approve all
Is
documents.
there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, moved and supported, and we'll have questions, comments, and discussion. Yes, Commissioner Bulkowski.
Thank you, Chair. First and foremost, this is great. It does go back up to item 3 as, when we look at a crisis center, how are we putting resources in the right place to support our friends, families, and neighbors who happen to have a mental health condition. So this is good stuff, and especially within the judicial system. The question I have is, this being a grant, is this one of those grants that we assume will be the previous grant we just approved with the Child Care Fund, it's called a grant, but it kind of happens every year.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't have
It's the budget,
questions,
yeah.
because it's been at it. And so is this one of those grants, or is this a special grant that maybe in a year it might not be renewed, or?
Yeah, I think that's correct. And Andy Thalhammer, our circuit court administrator, could probably add more to that.
Yeah, that is correct. It's different than the Child Care Fund. The Child Care Fund is pretty much a mandated thing that the state has to do by the Constitution. These grants, again, we're assuming they're going to be available for quite some time. They seem to be getting a lot of good outcomes from these types of specialty courts throughout the state and the country. It's something that sounds like the legislature, the executive are behind, as well as the Supreme Court. So we're hopeful that they will continue, but yes, you're right. It's not necessarily an every year thing that we can count on.
All right, thank you.
I was kind of curious before you sit down, is there just a handful of examples of, this has now been running for a bit.
Correct.
So what are a handful of successful examples?
Well, it's hard to say exactly. A handful. We've had 2 graduations. Again, the program, although it's been running for a while, it is a 12 to 24-month program to make sure we've identified, or past best practice has identified, that a lot of dosage for treatment to make sure that the treatment goes on for quite some time. So it's not necessarily, okay, we're doing good for 3 months, let's be done. I wish you could have seen the graduation we had. It was 2 people that their families were there. It was really a very nice thing to see. Now, that's a little more anecdotal. We are actually doing a kind of a formal evaluation of how they're doing. Is how are we performing better than had we not had this court? Again, the sample size is too small for that, but we are continuing to maintain that level of evaluation.
And then after graduation, is it just?
They are done.
They're done.
Their charges may be reduced.
Okay.
They may continue on probation, but yeah, that's pretty much, once we're done. The whole goal is that they don't need us there forever. Obviously, some services are probably going to be necessary continuing, but hopefully we've got them on a firm foundation and plan to continue those after their time with us.
Okay, great. Anyone else? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion passes. That brings us to item 6 from Community Corrections. Wayman.
Yes, this is a request to the board to approve the grant agreement with the Michigan Department of Corrections for funding for the Office of Community Corrections to appropriate $1 million to the 2019-20 Community Correction budget in the Special Revenue Fund, and to authorize the board chair or designee to execute the agreement with the state and contracts with the proposed vendors, subject to final review of the documents by corporate counsel and approval, and approve extensions, amendments, and increases to the grant appropriations not to exceed 15% of the original award. On May 9, 2019, the board approved the Community Corrections Comprehensive Plan and application for funding under PA 511 of 1988, which provides grant funding from the state to administer and operate programs that provide alternatives to incarceration for offenders. Funding will be provided to the following local programs: Alternatives Directions, Court Services, CBT Services, Homeward Bound, Burgess Psychological Services, Arbor Circle, Family Outreach Center, Women's Resource Center, Jail-Based GED Services, Catholic Charities, and the 61st District Court. Funds have also been included in the Office of Community Corrections budget for the Kent County Court Services Department, pretrial case management risk assessment, and the Kent County Sheriff's Office Correctional Facility OUIL 3 housing program. The grant period is October 1, 2019 through September 30th, 2020. It is expected that the grant is renewable. Prior to signature, Corporate Counsel will review and approve all documents.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, moved and supported, and we'll take questions, comments, and discussion. Commissioner Wooden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My only question is, I'm looking at the resolution. I remember us passing the Community Corrections Comp Plan. What is the bidding process? When does that start typically to subcontract this service out?
Maybe Andy Ver can help us with that question from Community Correction.
So the grant process is a yearly grant process. When we send out our RFPs, we generally do that January or February. We have them due by generally the end of March, beginning of April, because the grant is due to the state of Michigan by May 1st of every year.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Hey, anyone else? Right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion passes. That brings us to item number 7 from the Department of Public Works. Wayman?
This is a request to accept $175,440 in grant funds from the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, designated for the Kent County Department of Public Works for recycling infrastructure. The Department of Public Works applied for a EGLE recycling infrastructure grant to purchase a material handler to enable better separation of construction and demolition debris at the North Kent Transfer Station. Department of Public Works determined after analysis that at least 17% of the waste accepted for disposal is construction and demolition material. Often such material is received in good condition that can be reused as is. The material handler will facilitate diversion of useful material so it can be recycled or reused and not disposed in the landfill. DPW is providing matching funds for this grant in the amount of $116,900. The grant agreement has been reviewed and approved as to form by Corporate Counsel.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Support.
Okay, moved and supported, and we'll take questions, comments, and discussion on this. Commissioner Antor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a comment, we see some like this coming down the pipeline. Sometimes we get the false idea that everything's being taken care of. We don't have any problems because we're getting grant money here and there. This is a huge problem of recycling, not only here in Kent County, but, all over the world. We're only, I think, recycling about 10% of the plastics worldwide. And so it continues to be a massive problem that we're going to have to be working on long and hard to get a handle on it. I just don't want people to think that somehow because we see things like this, things are being taken care of. This is great. I'm all for it. It's a little tiny step, but the problem remains massive. So not to be a Debbie Downer, but it is what it is. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Yes, Commissioner Bukowski.
Thank you, Chair. Why are we approving this? I mean, in the sense of, I'm on the Board of Public Works. We looked at it. 3 of us approved it there, and others. Usually, we get other grants, and Board of Public Works is it because it's a requirement of this grant from the state? And it doesn't say it's going to the full commission.
The grant policy has various thresholds based on the amount of the grant. And actually, we looked at it to see if it needed to come through finance. According to the existing grant policy, it comes through finance only, does not go to the board because it's approved by the DPW board.
Okay, and that's probably the same for the next item too?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion passes. That brings us to item number 8, also from the Department of Public Works. Wayman.
Yes, this is a request to accept $95,000 in grant funds from the Michigan Economic Development Corporation designated for the Kent County Department of Public Works for due diligence activities in the Sustainable Business Park. The Department of Public Works applied for an MEDC grant for conducting due diligence activities associated with the development of the Sustainable Business Park. The MEDC grant will help fund the following activities: developing a boundary survey and legal descriptions for site leasing, developing topographic profiles for infrastructure construction and site development, completing preliminary engineering plans, completing an environmental characteristics inventory. The Department of Public Work is providing matching funds for this grant in the amount of $95,000. The grant agreement has been reviewed and approved by Corporate Counsel.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved and supported, and we'll have questions, comments, and discussion. Yes, Commissioner Bukowski.
Well, to echo Commissioner Antor's comment on the previous item, this is an effort to try to get ahead of that. Sustainable Business Park, I hope you all been, reading our minutes from DPW when they come out and other things that we've been doing, in partnership with the Right Place on developing this to do something with our waste other than burying it or burning it. So yeah, this is good to do, and it's got to be done, and hopefully with haste.
Commissioner Brevy.
Thanks, Chair. This is just one step in many steps, I think. It's not going to be a quick process with the business park, but it's a very important process. And, I think it's even more important that we have many people at the table from our friends down in Allegan, too. So we're going to be working with a group to talk more about this, and I'm glad that it's getting started. So this is an important piece of the puzzle.
Okay, Commissioner Antor.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, ever since I became a member of the DPW board, how impressed I am with the work that DAR's doing there. It's tough work. So many moving pieces, trying to stay on top of technology and try not to spend more money than we can possibly come up with. I can't believe I have sticker shock every time something comes down the pike for the equipment that's needed out there. I just think people they're unaware of the cost of this undertaking, and DAR does a great job, and I just wanted to send out some kudos.
Okay, anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion passes. That brings us to item number 9 from Facilities Management. Wayman.
Yes, this is a request to the Board of Commissioners to appropriate $111,300 to the 601-617 Ottawa Avenue parking lot project in the Capital Improvement Program Fund. In April 2015, the City of Grand Rapids submitted a grant to the Michigan Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund to acquire 3.67 acres of land on the west side of Monroe Avenue, Northwest, owned by the county, Michigan State University, and the city, to develop a riverfront park. As a condition of releasing its parcel to the riverfront project, Michigan State University requested the county sell property located at 520 Monroe Avenue, northwest to Michigan State University, which is adjacent to the property owned by MSU on the east side of Monroe Avenue. The 520 Monroe site is currently used as a parking lot. MSU would allow the county to continue to use the property as it does now for up to 4 years. To replace the county's 520 Monroe site, the city sold the county property at 601-617 Ottawa Avenue, and the county has proceeded with the demolition of existing structure on that site and is ready to begin construction. The $1.6 million received from the sale of 520 Monroe has been budgeted in the Capital Improvement Fund for constructing replacement parking. After receiving bids, costs for site preparation, demolition, and construction are $111,300 higher than originally anticipated. The costs for on-site stormwater detention, additional sidewalks, and comprehensive landscaping have contributed to the construction cost escalation.
Is there a motion to approve?
Support.
Okay, we have moved and supported, and now we'll take questions, comments, and discussion. Yes, Commissioner Bukowski.
Is this project a demolition of, basically we're wiping that piece of property and building a parking lot there?
As we speak.
Yeah, I was surprised on Saturday, I parked a block away for the river cleanup, and I thought we were gonna put the parking inside, and like, there was some requirement by the city for us to keep the walls of the building but no, I mean,
No.
it's just wiping that entirety of that parcel.
And the city totally understood that when they sold it
Okay.
to us. Essentially, what we're doing is, yes, we gained a few more spots over our North Monroe property, a few spots.
Right.
But essentially, the plan on that whole transfer of property between MSU, City of Grand Rapids, and us was to make us whole again for our North Monroe parking. And we're moving in a block north and about 150 feet.
Oh, I remember the transfer, and I remember our friends at Michigan State, how they helped us be convinced to do this. That being said, again, I just didn't know that, I was surprised the city allowed the destruction of a structure,
Well,
for surface parking. But again, I thought there was some, because there used to be other parking lots in buildings in the city that have been refurbished into offices, and I guess, yeah, so.
It was a very tired commercial building and warehouse and columns, and
Yep.
it wasn't a clear span. There was a
Yep.
lot of columns. So
Yep.
interior parking would have been out of the question.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Oh.
Yes, Commissioner Bukowski.
Where is the money coming from? The 111,000?
CIP.
So we had the extra money in CIP from other projects that didn't happen? I mean, again, there was some certain in there.
Correct. And so, knowing that this needs to happen, there's dollars that we have actually allocated for the move from the sale. We just underestimated what the total dollars would
Right.
be.
But within
For the
that
replacement.
budget, this is being shifted from other projects? Or how did we come up with 111,000?
I don't believe it's being shifted from other projects. Steve, do you want to answer that question? I'm not the particulars on that. I don't think we're taking dollars out of other projects. Steve, you want to answer that question?
What's your specific question,
The
please?
question is, where did the $111,000 come from? I know it's within the CIP, but CIP was 100% allocated, and how?
The money that will do this is funded within the general fund in the transfer out line item. What we're doing is moving it over to CIP, so it needs to be reappropriated within CIP account to be able to be used.
So we're taking some of the extra dollars received this year that are in the general fund and appropriating them here.
Yeah, it's already appropriated in the general fund. We're just now appropriating it in this fund because we're going to use it in CIP instead.
All right, thank you.
All right, anyone else?
Thanks, Al.
All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion passes. That brings us to double digits. We're at number 10, there's 16 more action items to go. There's 6 more to get us to 16, but let's do our double-digit moment. And Wayman,
Just-
from the front of the court.
Just a comment, this is typical for this time of year, Madam Chair.
Yes, we know. I don't get a chance to get to 10 very often, so it's just a moment, you know. For those of us who have kids, double digits is a big deal. So here we are in finance, and we hit double digits.
It's only 9:06.
It's all good. We have lots of time.
Okay, so this is a request to the Board of Commissioners to add a full-time account clerk, 1 position in the front of the court beginning October 1, 2019. The front of the court is requesting an account clerk to keep pace with the demand of child support audits. Beginning fiscal year 2017, the state moved to a 5-year grant application cycle to reduce workload and processing requirements for the state and the county. The Board of Commissioners approved the 5-year Title 4D grant agreement and appropriated funds for 2016 through 17 through 2020-21 with the state via Board Resolution 981665. If funding is eliminated or decreased. The positions will be eliminated unless continuation funding is approved pursuant to the fiscal policy on grants, contracts, and donations. This item was recommended for approval by the Legislative and Human Resources Committee at its August 27, 2019 meeting.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, moved and supported, and we'll have questions, comments, and discussion. All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. That brings us to item number 11 from the Health Department. Wayman.
Yes, this is a request to the Board of Commissioners to accept and appropriate $30,888,000 to the 2019-20 Health Fund budget and to authorize the board chair or designee to execute the grant agreements, approve extensions, amendments, and increases to the grant appropriation not to exceed 15% of the original awards. The attached listing identifies the various health department programs and the applicable funding sources for each program for the budget year 2019 through 2020. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services funds the Comprehensive Planning and Budgeting Contract, which is an annual agreement between the state and the county for $24,451,000. The agreement provides certain mandated public health services, including immunizations, infectious and sexually transmitted disease control, hearing and vision screening, food protection, drinking water, and on-site sewage monitoring, as well as several other state-funded programs. The Health Department administers additional grant programs totaling $1.4 million. These grant programs include the Refugee Grant Program from Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, Substance Abuse Prevention Programs through Lakeshore Regional Entity and Network 180, a lead hazard control grant from the City of Grand Rapids, and environmental health inspections programs through the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality. The Health Department also provides services that are funded mainly through fees and general fund appropriation. These programs include the animal shelter, health, education, and promotion, and laboratory services. The total for these programs is $5 million. Funding for the full-time Director of Population Health Consortium and conversion of a part-time animal shelter technician to full-time are included in the proposed budget as recommended by the Legislative and Human Resources Committee at its August 27, 2019 meeting. Prior to signature, Corporate Counsel will review and approve all documents.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
And supported by Commissioner Wooden. And do we have questions, comments, and discussion? And Commissioner Voorhees.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. My concern is that in the action request, amendments and increases to the grant appropriation not to exceed 15%. You know, that's about $500,000. I think if we're going to spend $500,000, it should come back for reappropriation. So I don't know how we could amend that or, but that's my concern.
Okay. We'll talk with you afterwards. This is one of those, well, Linda, you want to take that?
That standard language that we do on grants, and I understand this is a big grant, but we do that just to allow for the actual programming dollars to finalize so that we're not coming back to you for small amounts. But that, you'll see that type of language on almost every grant agreement.
Yeah, and so this is not for the totality of it. If it's a small grant, it could be $20,000, $5,000, $15,000 that we would get. We are saying those are the items, not $500,000 amendments. Those are not the ones we're looking for.
The way you roll it. That's the way it will be done.
Commissioner, if you look at the list on the what is actually the first added page, you'll see an itemization of all the various little grants that comprise this big number. So we'll keep the 15% within each of those specific grants because they all have separate agreements, much to my chagrin.
Does that make sense, Commissioner Voorhees? Okay. Commissioner Antor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually had that same question. Thanks for the explanation. But maybe I'm wrong here, but I think the governor has changed the name of the MDEQ. Don't we have a new name for them now? Just for the record.
It has changed to what they refer to as EAGLE. You saw that in the DPW action request. Right. It's Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy is what it stands for now. So we'll update that.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Commissioner Bukowski.
Yeah, this is, I mean, I think we've already done one or two of these. It's the slight cart before the horse in the sense that this gets rolled into our 2020 budget. It's our October 1 budgets. So all of this approval will, I mean, we talked about it today in transfers in, transfers out, and all that stuff when Marvin gave his presentation. So just making that note that if we're approving it today, then we'll approve it again in November and all of that. But the main reason I say all those things is it gives us an opportunity to once again to say thank you to our health department for their fantastic work. It's, yeah, you know, I mean, and of course I hope they have some time to go over to the detention center and check on the nutrition of the meals. But in all seriousness, you know, again, we do fantastic work. We get lost in the numbers and the percentages, which we're supposed to. At the same time, we can't forget the great impact and the quality of our staff up and down. So thank you, Adam, Teresa, who's here, and everybody else. So.
Okay, anyone else? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion passes. That brings us to item 12 from the Kent County Community Action. Wayman.
Yes, this is a request to the Board of Commissioners to accept various grants from the state of Michigan, the City of Grand Rapids, Area Agency on Aging of West Michigan, and the Interurban Transit Partnership appropriate $2.2 million to the 2019-20 Kent County Community Action Fund contingent upon execution of a contract, and to authorize the board chair designate to execute the grant agreement, approve extensions, amendments, and increases to the grant appropriations not to exceed 15% of the original award. The following list identifies the various grant amounts, general fund transfers in, and program donations to be accepted and appropriated to the Kent County Community Action Fund totaling $2.2 million. You will see them listed there. The CSBG grant is a 2-year grant that runs from October 1, 2019 through September 30th, 2021. Prior to signature, Corporate Counsel will review and approve all documents.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
I move.
Second.
All right. Questions, comments, and discussion? Yes, Commissioner Bulkowski.
It's a small nit, I believe, but in the grant from the Interurban Transit Partnership, or the RAPID, it says the RAPID, you know, grants these dollars, but is it not federal pass-through, or is it state pass-through?
It is federal pass-through through the Department of Transportation, MDOT, Michigan Department of Transportation.
Okay, because then it gets me to the bigger nit that I have, you know, that when, you know, how to really note the source. And I know when we get our audit, all of these dollars are going to have CFDA numbers, and we know that it's federal money and all of that stuff. But whatever it's worth, you know, you hear me whine about it with some regularity. You know, we're going to borrow $1 trillion this year as a nation, and some of it comes to us, $20 million or so, and we spend it well. I'm not saying we don't spend it well, but if it's borrowed money, is it really being spent well? But this is just a teeny little nit, has nothing to do with you or your program. But thank you for pointing out that it really isn't the ITP that's giving us this money. They are just passing it through. Thank you.
Commissioner Antor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just curious, the lead hazard control grant was $7,000. It's kind of way down in the order here. Was there just not other money out there, or it seems like that should be a higher priority? And I realize it is for us, but I'm surprised there wasn't more money available for that, because that seems to be, on this list of things, I would put that towards the top of need, but
Yeah.
I might be wrong.
Maybe Susan can answer this.
The lead hazard control grant is a grant that we're in partnership with the City of Grand Rapids and the Health Department, and they give us the money for staff that we go out and we do the out-county houses that are identified. We currently have completed 2, and we have 2 that we're working on. So they pay for all the bricks and mortar and the lead abatement. Our funds are just for the staffing.
So
to
it could
help
be
out with
said that there are additional dollars that the health department and the city utilizes
Oh,
for
yeah,
this
I
particular
think
work.
it's like a $1.3 million grant
Yeah.
in total.
I remember hearing about receiving that recently.
I appreciate, I know it's a high priority for the county and the health
Right,
department.
and this is our, this will be our 3rd year doing the grant with the health department in the city.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, anyone else? Great, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion passes. That brings us to item number 13 from the Parks. Wayman.
Yes, this is a request to the Board of Commissioners to approve the land acquisition project agreement as provided by the Michigan Department of Natural Resources for the acquisition of approximately 122 acres to expand Lowell Regional Park, to accept a grant of $683,200 from the Department of Natural Resources, and to appropriate an additional $105,700 from the grant and $45,300 from pending sources. On March 22, 2018, the Board of Commissioners approved a submittal of a grant request to the Michigan Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund seeking funding to acquire 122 acres of land to expand the Lowell Regional Park. The DNR Trust Fund approved the project with grant funding to cover up to 70% of the total cost of the acquisition, estimated $976,000. As a part of the 2019 budget process, the board appropriated $577,500 from this anticipated grant, along with an additional $247,500 in CIP funding as the local match for this project. To fully fund the project, the increased grant amount of $105,700 needs to be appropriated, along with an additional $45,300 local match from requests currently pending. To proceed with the grant award, the DNR requires a resolution by the Board of Commissioners indicating acceptance of terms in the project agreement, including the appropriation of required funds. The final purchase price will be determined by the DNR appraisal process as required by the project agreement. An action request to purchase the property with final figures will be brought back to the Board of Commissioners for approval. Prior to signature, Corporate Counsel will review and approve all documentation.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support.
Okay, moved and supported. Questions, comments, and discussion. Yes, Commissioner Wooden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had a question about the local match. I'm looking also at our next item for Millennium Park, and I'm recalling with Hazy Cloud, it appears that sometimes it's Parks Foundation, sometimes it's the county and the local municipality, sometimes it's a combination of both. Is there a policy for how the local match is figured out, or is it a case-by-case basis? Is there any kind of standardization?
Each land deal is unique, I've learned, and they're all a case-by-case process. We're working very closely now with the Parks Foundation to identify funding and going through their process and others to make sure that we're clear on this. The other thing I would say is there's three bites at the apple with all of these. There's the proposal to the grant, which you're kind of have an idea of where your funding comes. There's the project agreement where you clarify it, and then there's the final action request where we really, it's all tightened up and everything's in a bundle. So that's why there'll be one more coming back with you. It'll be final and to buy the property. Then it'll be all tied up in a nice bow.
Gotcha. Thank you. The only reason I asked was, I'm recalling with Hazy Cloud, we had, county put up 300,000, Cascade put up 300,000. I just want to make sure that we're being equitable and fair across the different participating townships to make sure that we're being standardized. Just was a question I had, and obviously I realize townships are bigger and smaller, but some degree of kind of standardization. I think I realize everything's different, but at least having a review of that is just why I asked the question.
Okay, Commissioner Bukowski.
Thank you, Chair. So with this, it is just the appropriation of these additional dollars. There's no general fund or CIP or anything more at this time.
Not at this time, no.
But that third bite of the apple, like Hazy Cloud, there could be based on the appraisal.
Correct, and we have 45,000 out there right now in pending asks.
Okay.
And depending on those outcomes, we may have to come back, but hopefully not. That's our goal, is absolutely not. But that's why we have to come back with a third to tie it up with a bow.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Antor.
Thank you. How long after the DNR gets this, what is it, the project agreement is accepted, how long does it take for them to finally say, we're ready to be done?
So there's some things that we have to do still. So there's the appraisal process that now this project agreement will allow us to engage in. There's also an environmental capacity part that we have to do with phase 1 and phase 2. Well, if phase 1 comes back hot, then we have to do a phase 2 and whatnot. So there's this due diligence period now that this will allow us to enter into and get everything tightened up with the bow, with the DNR, all the title work, things like that, so that we can come back with a clean agreement to buy the property.
And the market factors may change between now and then, so I'm wondering about that appraisal again. We talked about it earlier. It may go up, it may come down. If it comes down, we benefit?
Mm-hmm, correct.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Anyone else? I've got a quick one. Can you just refresh my memory on the big picture plan for this parcel?
Yep. So Lowell Regional Park is an area of the county that was identified several years ago as an under-resourced parks area. And so working in that larger community, they identified some land for a regional park that this is part of, and they've been working with the property owners for years to get a large sum of land together. So the master planning process for this park will be beginning, I believe, in 2020. And we'll be working further to enhance the plans for this, and then we can start trying to raise money for the development of it. So that's the long-term plan, but this is an under-resourced area of the county park system.
Because right now, this is just property. There's no trails, there's no, I mean, can people like park along the side and go walk it if they want?
I believe so, yes. It's not actively promoted at this point.
Right.
And so that's the goal of the next iteration of what we're hoping to do in 2020 is do that master planning so that we can start to build this property out.
Okay, Commissioner Voorhees?
Thank you, Chair Jones. So Matthew, how many total acres makes a regional park? How many
200 acres is a minimum of what has been defined as a regional park. 200 acres.
What do we have here total now?
Oh, this,
Or would have with
I
that?
think we're getting close to 400 acres on this, in this area. I'll confirm that though and get back to you all. This is 122 extra.
So just a follow-up, when you talk about what this future looks like, is it, because I believe the topography of this is very rolling, if I'm not mistaken? It's a rolling topography? It's not flat?
No, the idea of this property, as I understand it, is trails, parkland that we can walk, flora, fauna, enjoying nature, things like that, picnic areas for the community. But that will all be defined in the master planning process for certain. It'll be clarified. This is one of 4 parks next year that we're hoping to master plan out as part of the budget the parks is requesting for next year. So this will help us to define the next target of what kind of funding we need to find in our community to develop this.
Okay. Anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion passes. That brings us to item number 14, also from the Parks. Wayman?
Yes, this is a request to approve the land acquisition project agreement as provided by the Michigan Department of Natural Resources for the acquisition of approximately 4 acres to expand Millennium Park, to create the Millennium Park Whitcomb Expansion Project in the 2020 Capital Improvement Fund budget, and to accept and appropriate $294,000 from the Department of Natural Resources and $98,000 from the Kent County Parks Foundation. On March 22, 2018, the Board of Commissioners approved submittal of a grant request to the Michigan Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund seeking funding to acquire approximately 4 acres at the southwest corner of Maynard and Butterworth intersection. The DNR Trust Fund approved the project with grant funding to cover up to 60% $294,000 of the total cost of the acquisition, estimated at $490,000. The local match of $196,000 will be funded with $75,000 from an approved Kent County CIP award, $98,000 from the Kent County Parks Foundation, and $23,000 from the Kent County Parks operation budget. To proceed with the grant award, the DNR requires a resolution by the Board of Commissioners indicating acceptance of the terms in the project agreement, including the appropriation of required funds. The final purchase price will be determined by the DNR appraisal process as required by the project agreement, and an action request to purchase the property with final financial figures will be brought back to the Board of Commissioners for approval. Prior to signature, Corporate Counsel will review and approve all documents.
Is there a motion to approve? Okay, moved and supported, and we have questions, comments, and discussion. We'll start with Commissioner Voorhees.
Thank you, Madam Chair Jones. So my question is, the map before us shows that corner piece, Maynard and Butterworth. That's the piece we're talking about. We're going to go through an official appraisal on this yet. I would hope, it looks to me like that's a lot of money for that spot.
Yeah, one would think so. The challenge that we've learned through the appraisal process is there's a house there, and it's a dwelling. So while we might have a different usage for it, the landowner themselves has a house there that if they were to sell it on the market, they would be getting the value of the house as well. So that's what increases the value of this property. You have 4 acres and a house on the 4 acres. That's a pretty nice house. Right there. So that's the reason why we're estimating it to be higher than one would think.
But it will go through an official appraisal yet?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, ma'am.
So what, I'm just curious, what are we going to do with the house?
Well, the house will eventually be removed, but we'll probably be going through a process to demo it and work with the community to see if what's salvageable and things like that, or if somebody wants to move it, or we'll figure that out. But it will be, the plan is to take it down, and that will be the gateway to the recreation core of the park. And so we're working with the Parks Foundation right now to design that and how that will look.
Okay, any other questions? Yes, Commissioner Bukowski.
Well, I mean, just a comment, I hope, again, if it's a really nice house, hopefully it is movable, because when DPW, we bought some property down by the landfill, Dar just shared some pictures with us of moving a house. So, just jack it up and slide it down the street to a longer term location. So again, we hope to reduce, reuse, recycle, even the houses we buy. So we'll leave it at that.
Okay, anyone else? Yes, Commissioner Antor.
Now, just a reminder, I love the idea, picking it up, moving it, but I think they charge them about $1 gajillion per foot. Unfortunately, it is really, really expensive. But I'm just, sometimes, I know it's a desirable piece of property to purchase, but when there's a house involved, it seems like the cost goes way up. And is there a way where we can just avoid those properties? I mean, is there a better location where we don't have to pay extra to a property owner? He's going to want to get, or she, as much as they can get, and they have a lot of leverage in this. I'm just wondering if we should maybe look at locations where there's not a dwelling involved, a homestead.
Yeah, I understand the concern. When you look at this property on the map, you'll see that it's right at the entry point of the park. This is a unique circumstance that we've been trying to get this property for a long time, because it's at the front of it. And if you look, there's 2 other large parcels there that are still being actively mined. And so eventually we're hoping to get those 2, and because then we'll have the full core put together. So.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion passes. That brings us to item number 15 from the Prosecutor's Office. Wayman.
Yes, this is a request of the Board of Commissioners to approve the Prosecutor's Office 2019 through 20 Crime Victim Rights Act grant with the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and to appropriate $900,900 to the Special Projects Fund for the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and to authorize board chair or designee to execute the grant agreement, approve extensions and increases to the grant appropriation not to exceed 50% of the original award. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services provides supplemental funding to counties to assist offices with implementing the requirements of the William Van Regenmoorder Crime Victims Rights Act. And the purpose of the grant is to provide victims with information regarding charges, their rights, and the name of the advocate in the Kent County Victim Witness Unit assigned to their case, along with information relative to the victim's impact statement process and crime victim compensation information. The Prosecutor's Victim Witness Unit will continue to operate with 10 full-time positions. The grant period is October 1, 2019 through September 30th, 2020. Prior to signature, council will review and approve all documents.
Is there a motion to approve?
Please.
Support. Okay, moved and supported, and we'll take questions, comments, and discussion. Yes, Commissioner Voorhees.
I don't know if many of us will remember Bill Van Regenmoorder, the West Michigan senator, and I believe at one time probably could have been a U.S. Attorney as well, and has since deceased, but he was always so concerned about the victims that were in crime and what are we as a society doing to help them. And so it's an honor to move this resolution.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion passes. That brings us to item number 16, also from the Prosecutor's Office. Wayman.
Yes, this is a request to the Board of Commissioners to appropriate $1.2 million to the 2019-20 Title 4E grant budget in the Special Projects Fund and authorize the board chair or designee to execute the grant agreement, approve extensions, amendments, and increases to the grant appropriation not to exceed 50% of the original award. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services provides supplemental funding to counties to operate a cooperative reimbursement program to enhance child protection and permanence. Beginning fiscal year 2017, the state moved to a 5-year grant application cycle to reduce the workload and processing requirements for the state and the county. The Board of Commissioners approved the 5-year Title 4E grant agreement with the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services via Board Resolution 98-1663. The Title 4E grant agreement calls for the state to allocate $140,000 per year. The level of county general fund support is reviewed and adjusted annually. The recommended general fund support for the 4-year of the grant agreement is $1.1 million. Prior to signature, Corporate Counsel will review and approve all documents.
Thank you, Wayman. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved and supported, and we'll have questions, comments, and discussion. Yes, Commissioner Bukowski.
Yeah, this grant just seems upside down in the sense that the state contributes, 10, 12%, and we contribute 90% in that from the general fund? Isn't our grants usually 50-50, or we'd match at 10%?
Different for this particular program, but
Doesn't seem like such a great deal in this one.
Well, it really is, because a few years ago, Wayman identified this 4E funding that we weren't taking advantage of through the state of Michigan. So at that point, we found this extra $140,000 a year.
We weren't getting.
That we weren't getting. So it's enhanced our funding, and it requires the prosecutor to do a little paperwork, but it's worth the work for the money
So we used to
get.
pay for the.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay,
And-
so we were doing this anyways. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion passes. That brings us to item number 17, Commissioner Miscellaneous. Yes, Commissioner Antor.
Thank you. I apologize for not being at the workshop this morning. I actually had an opportunity to do some interviews with local radio concerning the Freedom Cruise, so I get to get on my high horse on that one a little bit. I'm hoping that everyone here can make it. It's this Sunday. Our actual honor ceremony begins at 2 o'clock at Fifth Third Ballpark, followed by a 25-mile ride through northern Kent County, where we'll have Gold Star families lined up in the front and escorted by literally thousands of cars and bikes. It's a really neat event, and we have 6 different school districts involved, because these were the districts where the soldiers were from that were killed since 9/11. So I just want to welcome everybody to come. I think I will even make a bet that if you don't come away from that event feeling different, a lot different than when you went in, I will buy you an adult beverage or pop of your choice, but I really hope that you guys can make it. Thank you.
Okay, any other commissioner? Yes, Commissioner Brevy.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to give a shout out to the Kent County Road Commission. There was a street in my district, Hannah Lake Avenue, between 84th and 92nd that wasn't in the best condition. And I had constituents petition me a few times, multiple times. And, you know, I passed the information along to Jerry Byrne of the Road Commission. And he was always responsive immediately and even replied to the constituents himself. And yesterday, as I'm on my way to pick up my kids from school, I run into a road closed sign, and I was a little perturbed, but then I'm like, you know what, Hannah Lake, it got repaired, and they repaved the whole thing from 84th to 92nd, and it looks wonderful. So I sent an email to Jerry to thank him, and then also included the constituents on that, and one woman was just excited. She said she watched the whole thing out of her window, and they did great work. So, you know, that's how Kent County gets things done. It wasn't on the schedule, but they made time and they made room for it, so I really appreciate the responsiveness of our road commission.
Way to get the roads fixed. Commissioner Voorhees.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the Saturday, the 21st, the Grand Rapids Symphony will be conducting a symphony at the John Ball Zoo, or the John Ball Park. It's been I've been a part of the symphony board for a bit, and it's been a part of mine is to bring the symphony to the people. So this is the West Side Symphony at the West Side, and I have some, being a sponsor, have some tickets and parking pass. So hope you have an opportunity. It's been a good. We did last year. We did the first one in the city of Wyoming. First time Grand Rapids Symphony was performed out in the city of Wyoming, and so we were pleased with that. And here's another, bringing the symphony to the people. And so hope you can enjoy it. I got free tickets and free pass. So let me know.
Commissioner Wooden?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to thank staff and Chair Jones for this morning's board work session on the budget. I'm excited for the longer session. I know that Administrator Britt stated that he doubts we'd be excited for an hour and a half discussion on the budgets. I'd say he'd be surprised. But I'm very thankful for the process. Additionally, I just wanted to, it may have happened before I arrived, but I wanted to wish a happy birthday to our board chair, Mandy Bolter. And again, thank everyone for sticking it out for these last 2 hours and 10 minutes.
Okay, so with that, we are adjourned. Our next meeting date is October 1st.